Audio, audio. Is the eye tracker going to turn on? Yes. However, it is not. Oh, there we go. Okay. Well, hopefully you can see the eye tracker on the stream now. Hopefully. We'll give it a couple minutes before we start. What is going on? Yeah, we're going to work on something in particular. We're not going to work too hard on it because I'm pretty tired today. I think I adrenalined myself out over a couple days of chicken dinners. And today was kind of a useless day. I don't know. So I'm just going to kind of chill and make some progress on something. Maybe we'll even finish it, but I just want to get something on the board for today, programming wise. I had to do business stuff at work, which I hate. I hate it. Chicken dinner. Chicken dinner. What is this giant email? Invalid bitcast. I'm glad you like the games. Come on, come on, come on, come on. Yeah, doing business stuff is totally the least fun thing. And I don't know, like we have a lot of projects happening right now, which is cool because we're making multiple things. But it's not cool just like having to make sure that multiple projects are going forward. There's always something wrong in a project, and just having to deal with that on multiple things at once is annoying. It's annoying. How's everybody out there doing? Was programming no longer programming? Well, that's how it is. How many projects are we doing right now? 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 projects. 4 projects. I don't recommend that. Five projects if you count earning chicken dinners at Call of Duty Blackout. But admittedly, that's a smaller project than the other ones, although it could grow to be a big project. Maybe we should just pay people to get chicken dinners. Is one of those projects a 20-year game? Not yet, but this game that you see on the screen is part of the point of it is that we can develop the engine to then use for the 20-year game. So this is like a step toward that. Yeah, maybe we should just, as a company, stop making video games and just start making chicken dinner YouTube videos. And maybe that'll be better than making video games. I mean, look, if we go to my channel, playlists, gaming, I have 8 gaming streams. That's a lot of YouTube views. I'm sure if we put ads on there, it's just going to be so much ad revenue. Playlists don't get much attention. 458 views on the playlist. That's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. People never use playlists. I don't know why I bother putting them together, but I do. 4 projects is bad for focus. Like, you really need to have somebody who pays attention to all the details and makes sure that things happen correctly. And that's generally me at the high level. And doing that for 4 things is really hard. You kind of have to let some things slide a lot and then go back to them later and fix them up. And some days it's just tiring, that's all. But I'm not even saying that today was like that. It's just you feel it add up over time. Any advice for coming up with interesting game ideas to work on as a programmer? You just develop that skill over time. I don't know if there's anything I can say. I mean, know why you like what you like and what would be interesting about changing games that you like. And there you go. Ask Elon how he does it. I'm not sure Elon is doing that well these days. He seems like he's causing a lot of problems unnecessarily, which is usually a sign, even if someone doesn't realize it, of someone who wants to disrupt what they're doing. You know what I'm saying? Your subconscious mind knows what it's doing. Why does the animation look so much smoother today? Well, sometimes when we run it, we're loading a lot of animations. And we still hitch when we load animations. The stream is 60 FPS now. It used to be 30 FPS. That might matter. Chicken dinner. Maybe we should have this be Battle Royale Sokoban. I don't know how that would work exactly. That was bad. Oh, no, it wasn't. Never mind. I know why that worked. Although I think we're going to make it. All right, let's start working on what we are going to work on, which is lily pad movement things. Let me set up some lily pad situation on this map, and then we can talk about sorry, lady. Okay, okay. Okay, well, I should probably use Matt's level to test this, but So the way lily pads work is you can like skip stones across the water and it starts them moving, right? And then they just go that way for a long time. And of course, you could have multiple ones. And the way the gameplay works is they move in lockstep in a turn-based way. So even though, you know, I kick this thing across, it'll push the first lily first, and then the second one, and then the third one. Because it's a turn-based game that involves synchronizing things sometimes, we move all the lilies in lockstep. It's possible that if I put one far enough out, it'll be late enough that it's on the next turn. Yeah, see? So there you go. That's what happens, you know, in this case. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. So most entities are moving on their own time, right? So when my warrior guy moves around, he's like not moving in lockstep with anybody unless he's pushing something. Then there's some special code that syncs those together. When the lilies move, what happens is a timer causes them to initiate the move, like a global timer counts down to 0. When that's 0, it's time for the things to move, and then they all move. And the moving logic is relatively complicated, like check if the place we're going into is clear. If we're blocked there, don't move that way. Check to see if water flow under us has changed our direction, because that's a thing for sure. Whoops, what did I just do? That's a thing, so I can definitely go in here and make some situation there. We're now, you know, like that. What else is there to say about this? Like I said, I'm having a slow day, so I'm not sure what to say. Oh, well, okay. So the way movement works in this game is, because it's a grid-based game, you like logically occupy one square at a time. Or like in the parlance of the game engine, you physically occupy one square at a time. But of course, there's animation as you go from one square to the other. There are occasions when you start moving into a neighboring square, but then something else happened there first and you're blocked. That doesn't happen that often with player characters, but it happens really more often with something like lilies, because they move relatively slowly and deliberately like this. So let's see if we can find the level. Our current summer intern has set up a test level somewhere. Let me see if I have it from him. Oh, that's a different thing that I need to work on. I may have to reproduce it. This one actually might be... Oh man, there's so many stupid gameplay things to it. Okay, this one shows it. So here, this lily is being blocked by that stone. Let's slow down time. That lily is being blocked by that stone, and then this other one is coming up, and it's about to, it basically illegally goes on to the first lily, right? A lily pad shouldn't be able to float onto another one. The reason that's happening is because the lily synchronization code was written before we ever had this concept that something could happen faster and block where you're going. Because when we started this game, there was instantaneous motion between squares. And in fact, we were copying over from a game that also had instantaneous motion between squares. It was the game that we were modeling this on. So that's something that has to get fixed. And we could fix it in a relatively straightforward way. But the problem is it makes me realize other things. So like the lilies all supposedly move in lockstep, but they just kick off their movement in lockstep, but when they actually physically move between the square, like they kick off their visual interpolation between squares in lockstep. But the time at which they actually physically transition between squares happens with the same logic as everybody else does, which is like, hey, did you cross this line that's 0.5 between two places? And what that actually means is that some might get to go before others. Maybe that's not bad, though. Maybe I shouldn't worry about that. Oh, except that I should worry about... Okay. So there's a whole other problem going on at the same time as all of this, which is the save load system doesn't work very well for timed objects. And one reason why I think is that it's not very transactional about when lilies physically move. If you know what I'm saying. Because it just happens on a timer. And I mean, there's some other logic about deciding when you could step on a lily that is based on animation timing that could be very different when we're playing back a gameplay test. So also on the list is like, hey, improving robustness of those gameplay test things. And so one way that I thought of that could improve the robustness and make this lily lockstep thing more solid is like, okay, there's a timer that kicks off all the lilies moving in lockstep. And then there's another timer that goes off to physically move them that is, the same criterion like it should be when they pass halfway to the next square. But this could be a little bit annoying. Yeah. Anyway, so I'm just thinking about all these issues. And so what I was assuming I was going to do is write that thing I just said, where instead of movement of the lilies being handled, the logical movement from square to square being handled by the same system as everybody else, I was going to do them in their own system. And that would be one way of fixing this problem where they're like backing up into each other, Another problem, though, is that this lily is trying to move when it's going to be blocked on its destination, because the thing that decides if the lily should start moving is not smart enough to check for that floating rock. It like has a different criterion. So we could fix that. That's pretty easy to fix, I think. But the problem is then we won't any longer have an easy test case for this thing that's happening. So sometimes you maybe shouldn't fix things as soon as you can. So this is going to be wrap Lily drop test. Anyway, does any of that mean anything to anyone? or what? People are talking about Seattle. Do I think Musk tweeting might go private was painting the tape? No, I think he has every right to say that. But saying funding secured if it wasn't is the problem. I mean, they were thinking of going private. That's like a thing they were doing. So, you know. Well, you'll note that I haven't actually done any of the stuff that I have just been talking about, which is what makes this casual. It's casual because I ain't done nothing. Wouldn't the problem be to check if they hit each other? No, because the lily pads move in lockstep, they could never surprise each other because they decide where to go. There's like a loop that iterates, actually, where each of them chooses a target, and other lily pads don't choose that target, you know? And that is also what enables them, you know, to move smoothly in lockstep, right? Because normal object movement, like in that thing that I demoed where I kick the rock across, well, never mind. Is this a game prototype you're actually interested in exploring? This is a game I've been working on for 2 years. It's not a prototype, it's a real game. The synopsis is you push blocks around. Does each thing have its own animation and collision check timer? How do the lily pads know nothing else will move into that square? The lily pads don't know that nothing else will move into that square. They just know that other lily pads won't. And so actually, and that's the problem here. So this one lily pad that's keeps trying to move into this rock, that's the same thing that would, it's like it thinks that that space is clear because it doesn't know to check for like a floating rock. But so like I said, that's a bug that we could fix, but this same situation can easily happen if a rock just fell in the water and like actually filled the square of water that it's trying to move into. You would have the same thing where it starts moving and then it's like, oh, someone was there, and then it backs up, right? So now the problem is if a lily pad backs up, because every lily pad's decision was made based on that, then we have to maybe do a fully recursive propagation to handle the backup. You know what I'm saying? Because if somebody is moving into my square because they know that I'm moving out, stop moving into it. And that's actually why I'm worried about little mathematical errors, meaning that people might cross the square on different frames. Because that guy could move into my square the frame before I moved out of my square, and then in the very last frame, I decide not to move out of my square, and then you end up with two lily pads on top of each other. So I think we really need to do what I was saying? Is Sokoban the name copyrighted? I doubt it, but this game is not going to be called Sokoban. It's just a working title. Does the current save function for time-based stuff record the x for f of x or something, then input those saved x values to undo or load? No, it's just... I mean, we do save what time it is on each turn, but in terms of the gameplay testing system, we don't use that time much, if at all. Because we want to play back the gameplay testing at arbitrary speeds, and we don't want it to break if we change timing slightly. If this is a wrapping level, why does the orange light flash on and off? That's just a display bug. Like, when we draw things on a wrapping level, we just draw it multiple times, offsetting it, right? And you actually have to go at least 2 to the left, 2 to the right, 2 north, and 2 south, depending on where the thing is relative to the camera. And what's happening is, if we're at exactly the starting point, so that this thing is actually, the guy on the right edge of the map is actually the real physical guy. So the one that you see on the left is us drawing one offset to the left for wrapping. But because there's a beam attached to it, that's not enough, right? Because there's a beam attached to it, we need to do another beam further to the left. And we're not doing that except in the case where his coordinates are bumped even just slightly further to the right. See what I'm saying? Is the art final? Well, no, certainly not. Especially here, like this water is garbage water right now. I mean, art for a game, in general, art for a game is not final until it ships, because art is one of the hardest things to do. And it's got the most effort behind it. Any thoughts on cloud gaming? No. No, I don't have any thoughts on cloud gaming. At some point, we should make this flow erasure and flow creation better. Chicken dinner, chicken dinner. Do I think the latency problem is insurmountable? It is insurmountable anytime soon, yes. For quality of game that I want to play. How many people successfully applied to be interns? 2. Are we going to interpolate the movement of objects, or is it meant to be that steppy? Which objects? Do you mean the water, or do you mean the other stuff? It's a turn-based game, so you want to be clear about what things are in what square. We're still playing with the style of that a little bit, but the basic idea is that it should always be clear. What does it take to be an intern? Well, it depends on what you want to be an intern doing. You've played Google Project Stream and the latency is negligible, or at last not a big issue for a game like Assassin's Creed. I disagree. I think the latency is obvious. Could some levels be successful because of the high speed instead of failing because of a recent change in code? That's less likely. It could happen, but when we record a test, we record it because it's a successful series of moves. Like, we wouldn't record an unsuccessful series of moves. So I think that means that wouldn't happen. What's the maximum latency you'd accept for cloud gaming? Under 5 milliseconds is possible. It's not exactly about, what do you mean by latency? You mean added net latency by the network transmission? That's not the whole latency story, right? It is not the whole latency story. If you're understanding this right, would one approach to be to loop through and undo any lily pad movement that has collided with another until there are no overlaps? Are you missing something? No, that's basically it. You just need to do that before they physically move into the same square as each other. But to do that in an organized way, it makes sense to have the lily physical movement not use the regular physical movement system. So the question is, how do we best do that without messing things up? Let's go and look in visual interpolation. Whoops. So do we do anything for lilies? Yes, if something is physically moved, if it's a lily and we didn't find a foreign entity, check if the ocean's been filled. There are certain things that can fill the ocean square. And then here's where we back up. Yeah. So really what we're going to do is we're going to take this and we're going to take this thing about lack. So this is that thing that backs people off usually. Let's make a routine. Okay. Something like that. Now, however, we also, if something is a lily, okay. So, all right, so while true, so we're going to do this kind of a thing. We're going to iterate over every lily. We're going to say, we're going to do this. So this is the thing where, because we're not checking it, is why the lily's trying to scoot under the rock when it can't. Oh God. Oh my God, this is terrible. There's this whole other situation where you could move a rock under a lily pad to pick up the lily pad and move it. Which means that that motion would necessarily be out of phase with the other lily pad motions. Which is fine, we just have to remember to check that. Video games, man, they just get complicated. Okay. Okay, so if we are surprised by what happened, we call this And then we say changed equals true, break. Let's call this Lily. This is Lily. This is Lily. That's Lily. Okay. So we're going to be clear that we're breaking from the Lily loop here. And this is the outer. Okay. So anytime we stop a single Lily, we have to recheck everybody. So we back that Lily off from where it's going to. And we need an additional check, which is so we need to check if okay. Well, so here we say don't I have a find type? Yes. So I'm going to say other is find type at lily.entity manager proximity grid lily pause. Okay. Now, if this guy is still going into his target square, we're fine. And if he's synced with us, we're fine, right? So if other.sync ID return true, whoops. Okay. So now we just need to know if this guy is backed off. And We could do that by checking the visual interpolation. There's this extra complication. Why am I in witness? We're going to have to deal with that. I want to know if wrapped distance always... Why am I in witness? Dude, I hate Emacs. Yeah. Okay, so if wrapped distance lily.entity manager pause other.target position is less than 0.1, which is just allowing for some float error there. So if the other lily if it's not interpolating, we'll use its position. So the problem is now, this is not a serialized thing. I'm not sure that that's good. In fact, we should serialize it. Okay, I'm going to allow ourselves to use that. Okay, if the distance between this lily and the other's position okay, what a pain in the butt. Now, chicken dinner, chicken dinner, chicken dinner. Okay, so when we call back off on a lily, we set its target position to be its physical position. Okay, I'm just going to try to make all of this compile. Now, even if we compile all of this, a lot of levels will be broken because lilies will now never physically occupy their new square. Because we never did that. Oh, geez. Maybe instead of relying on the visual interpolation, I should just set a flag about whether a lily backed off of its move or not. We'll think about that. But yeah, you know, so best of all possible worlds is we don't infinite loop, but we still don't run correctly. Oh, sync ID is not on the entity. So we want to say that's if sync ID is not equal to 0. Okay. Chicken dinner. Chicken dinner. So I'm sure we did that, yeah, elsewhere, 990. Why did I make that take proximity grid? What a pain. I should make a more convenient thing for that. Okay. Yeah. So now, every time we tell the lilies to move, they're starting at their physical position, which never advances. So this is fine. This is what we expected to happen. Okay. Now, so we're never even calling physically move lilies. So there's not a question of infinite looping even yet. But the point of all this is oh, geez. This whole thing about yeah. Anyway. So after we do this loop and we decide who has backed off, we are then left with who has not backed off. All right. So yeah. Yeah, okay. So we're going to collect whoever is here. We're going to say that every lily has not backed off. That's a temporary storage array. So while so then here we go through lilies, and we don't need to check this because we checked that above. Okay. If we go here, we say well, we don't need to do any work if we backed off already on this guy. Okay, so then if we get to here, then we physically move that lily. And how do we do that? All right, here's that place where we back off. We set the physically moved flag and we call update physical position. Lily target position. Okay. We're just asserting that our target position didn't get that far from, shouldn't have changed at all from our physical end. Okay. And then okay, that's it. Okay. We still won't do anything because we're not calling that routine at all. Ta-dum, 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 dum, dee-dum, ta-dum. Okay, so now we just need to call this thing on the appropriate timer, which is more complicated than it would be because, like I said, there's two different speeds of lilies, and that's a pain in the butt. Okay, so here's where we decide to... Oh my God, there's the whole thing about the flow updaters as well. Well, we won't worry about that. Okay. The thing that I said about fast versus slow lilies is not correct. Oh, actually, here's what we do. We just pass this flag down. Because if we are doing slow lilies, everybody's moving in lockstep. Okay. That's called do slow lilies. So here we do this timer. The problem, let me just pause and talk to chat for a bit, and then I'll tell you what the problem is. People are talking about OOP. That's great. Did Twitch remove creative and programming? Yep. That's why we are in science and technology, which doesn't make any sense. Doesn't make any sense. Oh, Roundlay subscribed. Thank you for the sub. Thank you for the sub. Software management, great. Great. All right, so here's the thing. The way the Lily thing has worked up till now is there's a timer. Let's say it goes off every quarter of a second. And every single time we move the fast lilies, and then every other time we move the slow lilies, right? Okay, that's for the visual motion. So now if we're going to set a timer during which we do the physical motion that happens approximately halfway through the visual motion, well, the timer for the fast lilies always will go off before the next thing. But the timer for the slow lilies I guess it's guaranteed to be before the... I need to like write this down on a piece of paper. So here, here, here. So slow lily. Okay. As long as... we do it before the next fast time step, which I think we're guaranteed to do. Because, you know, the lilies kind of move, halt, move, halt, move, halt. So the move, so a slow move takes, the whole turn takes 2 of the fast time steps, right? But the time over which you're animating is a little bit less than that because of the pause at the end. And so the time at which you would physically move is half of less than 2, right? Which is less than 1. So we only ever would have one timer active at once. Except no. Because on fast rounds, we're moving fast lilies and slow lilies. Oh, what a pain in the butt. Okay, so I wrote the physical move routine as if it handled slow lilies and fast lilies at the same time, like the other one does, like the visual one does. But it can't do that because fast lilies, even if they start at the same time as slow lilies, they will, of course, go to their next square sooner. Okay, so this thing that I did is not right. This thing is not right. This is correct. It's like, look, if you're trying to physically move and somebody's there. Okay, so here, okay. So we either are doing the slow ones or the fast ones, but not both and not anybody he's synced. Okay. So we are going to have we're going to have more timers. Not PH fast. We're not phone freaks. Okay. These are not, okay, these have to be a slightly different pattern. Because they're not always active. And we call physically move lilies for manager and true for fast, right? And then slow. Such a pain in the butt for something that's only 4 squares of skipping stones. But we might use it in other ways. So, okay. We need to put this into campaign state. Where is campaign state? Why am I in witness? And then we have to save these. And we have to put them in the undo. Oh my God, it's such a pain in the butt. I guess that's the same thing. Why does it keep putting me? I hate Emacs. Okay. Okay. That doesn't seem to save the thing. Whoops. Don't need that. Don't need that. Okay, this still won't do anything because we never set them to anything but -1. But hopefully our system doesn't explode. I just keep trying. All right. So that's good. I mean, it doesn't look good, but it's what we expect. Okay. Now. Okay. If we did any move, okay, target time fast, target time slow. Okay. So we assert that our timers are not whack. Who knows if that's going to go off? Probably will at some point. Well, we never do anything. So now I think we should have actually done everything that we need to do. Did we actually return true on move lilies? Yeah. All right. I guess we do. Well, obviously I forgot something. So let's make a debug build. We'll see what happens when we try to physically move lilies, for example. Whoops, no, not that. I want this. I want this. Start. And we'll open skipping stones. Physically move lilies. Oh, well, we never say false there. So right away, that's not expected to work. Because we don't have any fast lilies, and that was saying only move the fast ones. Hey, we got a crash. Oh, So obviously, if we didn't find a lily at all, then nobody is occupying our square. Let's just not run in the debugger now. Let's just see what happens. Okay, well. Assert failed 1047. It's my lily target position physical end assert. Well, let's check that. Good thing I put that there, I think. Let's see what it has to say to us. Go people are so ridiculous for not putting assert. Okay. Lily target position. Okay. This is before anything funny happens. Do we just not set the target position? Okay, I'm a little confused actually. This means this interpolation completed. Well, Frank. Let's just see what happens there. So 0.6. Oh, this should, each of these numbers should be 0.5 of that, right? So, yeah, yep. So this should be 0.5, and this should be 2 times 0.5. Chicken dinner. Okay. Well, that's a weird... It's got a weird interpolation wrapping problem. That's not actually as big of a surprise as you would think. Because wrapping levels are weird and we have to remember to wrap the right way. It's basically wrapping the wrong way. But you'll note that the other lily is no longer on top of this one. So that's pretty good. I just tried to switch to a level that we haven't done texture processing on, I guess. So, it's going to take a second. Let's check chat while we're texture processing. Everybody always wants to argue about programming languages in the chat, or not even argue, but discuss. It's like, I guess that's a thing that programmers can talk about, but I don't get it. All right. Oh. Really? Let's try this again. I bet the visual interpolation is not active, yeah. Why not? We're like setting the timer too often. I don't quite know how that would happen in here in a way that doesn't happen on the other level. It's like we already moved this lily its interpolation is no longer active. We marked that we moved it. So why are we back here again before it has moved? I don't get it. Do I have any advice about how to grab developers' attention and get a foot in the door? Getting the marketing. You don't mean developers, do you? You mean like game? What are you talking about? You talking about getting a job, or are you talking about getting people to play your game? I don't get it. I don't get the question. The people in the Elite Gaming, Elite Platinum, Elite Copper Lounge have a goofy image of me. I don't know why. Will there be a book that people can order on Amazon? Not for a long time, certainly. We're not exactly in the book publishing business. How do I deal with short-sightedness? I don't. You got to be more specific about that question, about what exactly you're asking about. There won't be a O'Reilly book, people. It just won't be a thing. It just won't be a thing. Okay. This is a weird. So this is exactly the thing that I'm talking. Okay. Most gameplay bugs, or even most game engine bugs, are like this. Like there's some behavior that I've specified that's incorrect, and it evolves over time. So it's a little bit not that tricky to debug. Like it doesn't happen the first time. It happens like the second time. This is exactly the kind of thing that none of this program correctness stuff that everybody is touting about will help you with at all. And it's the vast majority of bugs. So all these people who are like, oh, the Rust borrow checker will make sure that most of my bugs are gone. No, it won't, unless most of your bugs are crappy bugs that shouldn't have been there in the first place. Sorry. Most bugs are like this, where it's like, well, it's doing the wrong thing. Because I told it to do the wrong thing, but it doesn't know what it should be doing. Indie dev feels very insular in the way they hire, as well as inter-promote games. People don't take you seriously unless you ship a successful product, and whatever you ship won't be successful unless people buy it. None of that's true. I think maybe you feel like you're on the outside, and so you're projecting an image of something. No, like, people will hire you if you demonstrate skills that they are impressed by. That's it. So you just have to demonstrate skills. People understand that it's hard to get people to buy a game. That's not the skill that you have to demonstrate. You have to demonstrate that you program well, or that you do modeling well, or something like that. Of course, if you have a good selling indie game, it's easier to get people's attention. But if you have that, why would you be looking for a job? You know what I'm saying? No, the For Dummies has one page, but it doesn't say get out. It says get good. In It's a mostly blank page with very tiny text where you have to like squint in and get the magnifying glass, and it says get good. I wonder if Amazon sells one-page books. I kind of might be in a Call of Duty mood soon. Because like I said, this is kind of casual programming stream. I didn't necessarily want to finish this. Even if it looks like it's finished, I'm not going to check it in at least till tomorrow morning after some more testing. Would I hire someone with near zero value to go for free? No, we can't. We can't do that because the problem is it takes our time and energy to manage that person and help them out. And we're such a small company that we just don't have that to spare right now, especially because we're doing so darn many projects. Bigger companies have more pathways to mentorship and whatever, but we only have a very little bit of that, and it's saturated right now. So yeah, I mean, we can, like, if we bring on like an intern or something like that, it's somebody who's demonstrated that they know enough to work in a mostly unsupervised way so that they're not a big drain on the rest of the team. Did I expect the interns to have value, or is it just a fortunate surprise? I hope they would have value, and it turned out that they do, and that's great. It turned out a lot better than I would have expected, for sure. Can we get a code sit rep? You mean like another emote? Sit rep. What is the bug? Maybe I shouldn't play any Call of Duty. I am tired today. I'm having a tired day. Okay, so assuming, now it may not be correct what my theory is, but my theory is that we kicked off the timer. Okay, let's put in some asserts. Let's assert, oh, actually we do have these asserts, right? So okay, when this goes off, I mean, I think this is redundant with these asserts that we have later, because if we set do lilies, then down here we move them, and if there's a move, we set these. And when we set them, we assert that they're less than 0. Maybe we messed up and we did the physical move on the fast Lily move. Let's just see. So it finishes the first interpolation. It's like in the target square. All right, here's what we're going to do. Debug build again. And we're just going to start setting breakpoints in the appropriate places. Question is, does this happen? No, it doesn't. Okay, so... All right, so that's correct. So we are doing fast lilies. Oh boy. Okay, that... There are no fast lilies. Okay. Now, we're doing the slow lilies. We have slow lilies. Oh, you know what? We're assuming that everybody here is moving. But that's not necessary. Right? If they're not moving, then we don't do any of this stuff. And if they're not moving, then of course their visual interpolation will be reset. So that's why, okay. So when everything is sitting still, we don't ever call that routine because any move was false. But when any move gets set to true because one guy is moving, then we iterate over that thing, but then 21 out of 22 lilies are not moving and their visual interpolation is set to -1. That is the problem, or at least one problem. May not be the only one. So here, if it's not moving, what did I just accidentally do? If it's not moving, we're not interested in it. There we go. Whoa, it went backwards. Why'd that puppy go backwards? That was weird. Oh, the other thing that we check is, in addition to moving, That's just a gameplay thing where lilies pause sometimes before they do stuff. So that's another way in which they can be unmoving. I don't really know if that's the problem, but it may be related because when things hit the shore, they sort of... Okay. Maybe it was. All right. Well... So many assertions, but that's how you make sure your code is right. All right, well, let's see what's going on there. Debug build. Yeah, the eye tracker is just to give people some more information about what I'm looking at times. Maybe if I pause and... You know what I'm saying? Like if I'm looking at code to try and figure out what's going on, then... That time there was no assertion. Oh, it went backwards. Okay, so that problem isn't fixed. It's just spurious. Interesting. It's maybe dependent on timing or something. I'm sure the Rust borrow checker will help with that. It says it's moving south. Why did it go north? That's so weird. Okay. I'm going to put in a special piece of hack code. This is how we do things downtown. If we do add visual interpolation, we're just going to assert that nobody ever makes us go north. Because in these couple of levels, we don't have that. All right, so we're here. That's weird. Oh, this is not my new assert. This is my old assert. What? So this assertion is weird. It's going off for a different reason. Now it's going off, this interpolation is not active. So checking its distance is not meaningful. But like, Why didn't it start interpolating? There's some really weird timing thing. Lilies are complicated. Any advice for 5-year experienced programmers who want to continue to grow and learn? Just try to do things that are ambitious and stretch the boundary of what you are currently able to do. Right? Because when you're first learning, you can take any old advice off the internet and it'll probably help you in some way. I mean, most advice is bad, but if you don't know any better, you might as well try some things. But once you have like 5 years of experience, it's like, all right, it's time for you to be doing stuff, you know? Time for you to be doing stuff. So, like something happened where this guy is not, he didn't start visually moving, but we're trying to physically move him. Which is weird. Oh, well, we already set it to -1. So we don't know what this value was a second ago. Well, what do we do? These numbers seem approximately right. So why was this lily not interpolating? Okay, first of all, is it the right... Like, it looks like it hasn't visually started interpolating yet. It's not halfway over the line into the next square. So it probably is the right one. So So this thing, so there is this timer that counts down, right? All this stuff is more complicated than you would think at first glance. So the lilies move in lockstep on a fixed timer, but if no lilies are moving, we always reset the timer as soon as the first one starts moving, because that makes the game reactive, right? If you like started pushing a lily with a rock and then you had to wait a quasi-random amount of time, depending on how far into this invisible time step you currently were, that would make the game feel bad, right? So if nothing is moving, then we reset the timer. So what we probably should do is add some assertions here. And then in case we're in, in case we're in release mode, we'll set those. So I don't know if that is related to the current bug, but we're just trying to figure out what is happening. Of course, now the timing might not happen the same, right? Like before, this was fine. Really? How did that happen? That would explain some things. What? Put in some more assertions. We're going to assert this is less than and same for fat. Dude. Yeah, why is this editor so terrible? It's like it's trying to be so smart, and it always does the wrong thing. All right. Okay, so it's happening some amount of time after that lily comes to rest, when its move delays decrement. Its move delays decrement. Like, how did this timer pass this timer? Well, I guess let's put these asserts when we set this. Maybe we screwed that up. I don't think so. I think it's something to do with the move delays somehow, but I don't know what. Maybe it's not. Maybe there's just like some drift. Oh, dude. Now we're hitting the other frickin' thing. Dude, I'm going crazy. Okay, so count moving lilies probably doesn't count move delays. Dude, I don't know. This is too complicated. Oh, it's just looking at visual interpolations? That's not good. We don't want that. That's totally not what we want. Why did I do that? This is awful. That must be really, really old code when I was doing things really differently. So that, oops, that can go haywire. Like if you started a lily while other lilies were on their pause cycle in their movement, they wouldn't get counted. Oh man. That explains some weird behavior that we saw way back. Like, I hate all these asserts going off, but at the same time, I'm so glad that they're in there, because otherwise, if you don't put these asserts in there, then what you have is broken software that doesn't do the right thing, even though maybe it sort of looks like it is. So this is like discipline here, man. Of figuring out what the hell is actually going on. Okay, target time slow. Visual Studio sucks! I have to put an extra line on that scope to extend the scope so that it'll tell me what the goddamn variables are called. That used to work like 10 years ago, and then they broke it, and they're too stupid to fix it. So... okay, that was weird. It moved north and our assert didn't go off. Ugh. Ugh. Dude. Okay, so this is no surprise. So all right. We have multiple problems, or maybe they're all the same problem at root, but they're timing based, so I've got to just... I want to run it till I get back to that other assert going off. This one. Okay. So target's time slow is 0.1875, and the time to next lily update is 0.184. What is delta? 0.25. 0.1875. Okay. Wait, what? So delta is 0.25. So, okay. When we count below 0, and we're setting up the timer for next time, we don't say it equals the time between timer go-offs. We do an add because we want to account for the amount of time we missed, because the frame is non-zero length of time, right? So this timer went to 0 somewhere in the middle of the frame. We missed that, and now we're making up for that time that we missed due to it being a frame-based application. Now, but the thing is, our time to next Lily update now has been set to, actually, where are we? We're after that, right? Yeah. It has been set to 0.184, and our delta is 0.25. So that means we're like 0.07 off, which I guess could happen like if we were loading an animation or something and we stalled. I mean, it could happen for any reason on people's PC, right? People's PCs get slow because they're running downloads in the background or whatever's going on. Norton antivirus. So one thing we could do is we could just say, well, if our time is greater than that. Oh, you know what? You know what we could do? When we set this, we could record what the negative amount of time was. Yeah, that's actually the correct thing to do. Okay. Okay, subtleties. So whatever amount of time we went over, we say lost time is this. Actually, lost time is 0. So lost time is that, which is usually going to be negative number or 0, right? So here we add lost time, which is going to subtract a little bit. And here we add lost time. So now it should really be true, those assertions. Maybe there's some really weird float error situation in which those won't be true, but I hope not for reasonable numbers. Why does clamp start with uppercase C? I don't know. Just no real reason. It's because in C and C++, when I use that, it's a macro, but it's not such thing here. Why did it move north? Okay, this is good though, because I think we fixed our other problem. Things get really confusing when you have multiple problems at once, and I believe we have fixed one of our multiple problems at once. Yeah, we have like 3 problems. Well, we had 3 problems. We fixed one of them, I think. So we're down to 2 problems. We have this one about, like, we've just set this lily into motion and that's confusing things. It's not animating yet. I'm not sure why that would confuse things. It seems to. Like if we... Okay, I know what this problem is. So this problem is if we decided to start a lily moving, like, hey, this stone kicked it. If the stone kicks the lily after the time to start the visual interpolation and before the time to do the physical movement, then because physically move lilies doesn't check the visual interpolation, it's not okay, this newly kicked lily shouldn't be physically moved yet because it hasn't entered into the regular movement cycle yet. But we don't know that because we're not checking for that. So there are 2 things we could do. One is we just check the visual interpolation, which I think we're going to do. The other one is we could introduce a different variable. But we're going to do this. Okay, so if the start time is less than 0, which means we don't have a valid visual interpolation, a lily could have been set into motion after the time of when we start visual interpolations, but before the time when we physically move for those interpolations. When this happens, the lily is just not entered into that movement cycle, so we ignore it here. So many continues. Let's keep doing debug build, because I think we have at least one more problem. So that's, oh, right. Never mind, because you know what? We can't do that. Can we? Like, I feel like we're hitting that line. But we shouldn't. Let me move. It'll be easier to debug this. There. that's weird. Okay, wait. So I moved. I don't see how moving this down to there should change anything, but it seems to have. Maybe I'm just a dumb dummy from Dum Dum Land. That is definitely a possibility. Ooh. The stone kept... Oh, now my no check-in problem. Remember how I said, hey, nothing should go north? Well, I just put a lily into water that pushes it north. So let's turn that off for now. Oh, there we go. So that seems like a new problem. It's like its visual interpolation finishes. Oh, you know what? Okay, so now what I'm worried about, remember when I said, hey, I could check the visual interpolation, or I could just check if it's entered into the actual thing logically. I better check if it's entered into the actual thing logically no matter what, because at very high frame rates, for example, or actually very low frame, if the timer is going really fast, then if we require the visual interpolation to not have completed, then like we're introducing a lot of confusing and error-prone coupling between the visual system and this logical timer system, which we would rather not have. Yeah. Okay, we're not going to do it that way. We're going to have started visually moving. Okay. This is version 3. What did I just call that? Started visually moving. Okay. So wait, where? I see. Lily.started visually moving is true. Wow, so many pains in the butt now. So many pains in the butt. So we started visually moving. Now that has to turn off. All right. We have to clear this. Dude, this is getting more complicated than I would like, and I don't know how to simplify it. Okay. Okay, that appears to have worked better. Ah! The rock fell off it. And then undo messed everything up. Ah! Oh. Okay, wait. Oh my gosh. So this is good. This is uncovering what was essentially a problem in the rest of the game prior to now. Oh my god, this game is so complicated. Like, we're doing all this turn-based movement stuff. And at first you think, oh, turn-based movement, that's not hard. But it's way more complicated than just regular movement in an open space, continuous movement. All right? So here's the thing. When we record a frame of undo, it's based on what time is it when a player decides to do the certain action, because you're recording the state of the world before they do that action so that you can go back to it later. If lilies are partially moved, then they need to be in that same partially moved state after you rewind, like any timed object needs to be. And we're not letting that happen right now. If things have decided to move and have started their visual interpolation and you undo to that time, we're resetting the visual interpolation back to 0, which then means that those things essentially skip that move, which actually explains a lot about why undo and the playback system don't really work quite right with timed objects. So the thing is, I have to fix that. And that is a big change, and I'm not sure. I have to think about it before doing it. So this may be where we stop this programming task for now. It's just coming up to midnight exactly. My clock just rolled over while I was saying that. So, I mean, the thing is, there are other problems. Okay, I'm going to write down on this piece of paper, timed object plus undo problem. I'm not sure what to do about that. I'm going to have to think about various ways of approaching that. It's likely that we're just going to save the visual interpolation information in the undo system and restore it if it's timed. It's getting complicated, man. That's all I can say. I mean, every game we do gets complicated. It's getting complicated. All right, so I'm going to say this is marked by undo problem. I want to get this to the point where I can check it in without solving that other problem, right? Don't do that, Visual Studio. Okay. Whatever. Something like that. Why can't I record interpolated values? We could. It's just I'm not sure if it's the right thing. Wow, this is really messed up now. What the hell just happened? Oh, the thing fell off. Everything is super broken now. What did I do? Oh, this frickin', okay. It's a mess. Oh boy, I'm glad that I got this in today. Okay, this is what we expect. I'm glad I got a head start on this because there's just a lot of cleanup work to do on this particular thing. Okay. Okay, so stuff isn't riding on lily pads anymore, which is going to break a lot of games. do this? Did I hose myself? Oh, because that rock didn't come across on the lily. That's why I can't do this. Well, that's a bummer. So I need to maybe set up a very simple test level. And we're not going to do that tonight because we're starting to get tired again. We did a good couple hours. But like if I just push that, I just left it behind and it didn't even sync. Like what the hell was that about? It's always on the second move. That's a whole other system that needs to get rewritten, by the way, is how things get carried. But I don't know why it would suddenly be failing here. Because I wouldn't think that we changed anything. Oh, no, I know why. I know why. Because in visual interpolation, when we call update physical, okay, it looks like we don't do anything special here for the update physical position, but we do if somebody has a sync ID with our lily, then we have to move them. What a disaster! We can't do that from here. This is also something I want to think about. Okay. So now that we've done all this logic for moving these lilies and stuff, the thing is, this thing finds people with sync IDs and so if somebody should physically move and somebody else is part of the same transaction, then they physically move. Oh, that's easy. Okay, let's do that. I was trying to use sync ID. That's actually not the best way, but transaction ID is fine. Okay, for manager moving entities. Damn it. Okay, this is gonna... because of the same reasons I was talking about before, if time is going by really fast or something, if we take this, if we do this our own way, we are not guaranteed Okay. Here's what we're going to do. We're not going to try to fix this right now. Here's what we're going to do. In this loop, instead of actually doing the physical movement, we're going to set something on the visual interpolation that says physical movement is authorized to happen, and this loop should do it. And we can even make that like a frame index so that we're sure that these happen in the same order, so that if someone doesn't refactor things, like if this visual interpolation movement happens before this, then it's like a frame late, and that's gross. Anyway, we could say on V, we say V dot yes, you're authorized to physically move is true. And then when this thing gets here, we'll say if this is our situation, then instead of saying false, it's is it authorized by the outer loop to physically move, right? And if it is, then all this normal stuff for moving regular objects kicks in. Which is fine, and except that we maybe skip some of the other checking. And I just want to do that in the morning when I'm fresh. So I don't screw it up real bad. But again, that'll put all the movement, the actual movement, back in the same place. And this is just like vetting and synchronizing movement. So it's like an external synchronization mechanism. And we'll call this something different because it doesn't actually physically move them. This will be like authorize lilies to physically move. Let's rename that now to remind ourselves. All right, so we're not going to check this in yet. We're going to hope our hard drive doesn't crash overnight, or our SSD. Well, that was our game programming stream for tonight. We're totally shipping them both by the weekend. Yeah, for sure. That is happening. Not. Yeah. Alrighty. So we may continue this in the morning. And then we'll finish that, and then we're going to have to figure out this undo situation. Which frankly I'm not that thrilled about. Although I guess it's fine. I guess it's fine. There's just so many games are complicated. I don't understand why I ever decided to make video games. Who would ever do this? It doesn't make any sense. Can you use multiple return types in procedure arguments? What do you mean? I don't understand the question. Multiple return types in procedure arguments. Do you mean in procedure return values or what? As default Parameters, I don't understand. Multiple return types as default parameter. These words are not forming things that make sense. All right, well, I don't think I'm going to play any Blackout tonight because I'm a little tired. So let's see. Let's see who is in science and technology that we can host. Can go back to Cosmos, Action RPG, C++ programming. Game dev chill. Join me while I play Minecraft. I'm not sure why that's in science and technology. Not a lot of science and technology happening. Let's see what's going on here. I really don't know. How's Carl doing?
Of years, across the millennia, an author is speaking clearly and silently.
We're going to host Carl.
Directly to you. Writing is perhaps the greatest of human inventions, binding together people who never knew each other, citizens of distant epochs.
Thanks everyone for coming by.
Break the shackles of time. A book is proof.
And I'll see you all some other time.
Capable of working magic. This room is filled with magic. Some of the earliest authors wrote on bones and stones. Cuneiform writing